What if I told you that there is a hat that exists that could save your family's life? 4 months ago, when the pandemic hit us, they closed down the public schools, and my children were home and somewhat alone. My oldest son was sad. I asked him why. He said, "I don't get to see my friend Liam anymore." And I said, "Well, what's Liam like? What does Liam do?" And my son says to me, "Every weekend he goes pike fishing with his dad in his boat at Reed's Lake." Now, I care a lot about being a father who has a strong connection with his children. I don't really care to be on a boat, and I don't really care to be a good fisherman. But 2 weeks later, I bought a boat. And when I went and looked at it, I heard that you can't judge a boat by its cover, but I did. It was crusted, it was dirty, it was patched from years of use, but the owner assured me that her husband had taken really good care of it and it should be fit for a lake. So we peeled the cover off, and I looked inside, and I saw seats, I saw fishing poles, and I saw my family at Reed's Lake fishing for pike. I had to have the boat. So the next day, I drove back, hooked the trailer up, gave her a check for $2,000, and drove it home through the rain. That next day, when it dried up, I again stepped up the trailer, peeled the cover back, and as I stepped into the boat, my feet stepped through the floor. And that's when I realized I was also stepping into a very complex project. You see, there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And I have kind of a rule that I use when I approach projects like this. I call it the high C's, which is when a situation has a high level of complexity, it needs to be matched with an equally high level of capability and or confidence in order for you to resolve the situation effectively. So I started educating myself on what it takes to redo a boat. I stripped it down. I learned how to use epoxy resin to prepare the new deck boards. And within a few weeks, I was able to get the motor restored so that the boat would be again ready to hit Reed's Lake. And I got to tell you, I was pretty excited. I was starting to feel that confidence. On Father's Day, I took my family out to Reed's Lake and we lowered a 16-foot aluminum fishing boat into the water. I parked the truck, went back to the dock, loaded up the family into the boat, and put on my zippy captain's hat. That was about the time that I was washed with anxiety, as I realized I had no idea how to operate an outboard motor. As we pushed away from the dock, the panic set in. This was a more complex situation than my capability or my confidence was ready to address. Fortunately, right behind us, a couple of kayakers pulled their boats into the water right behind me. And I said, "Excuse me, do you know how to operate an outboard motor?" And as they got a little closer, the gentleman said, "I love your hat." And I thought, that's an interesting compliment because it almost, to me, sounded like it was saying, "You have no idea what you're doing, do you?" And I didn't. And I accepted his help. And a few moments later, I was able to get the 25 horsepower Evinrude motor up and running. We cruised around that lake, and it was a blast. The wind in our face, the confidence was bubbling up and even turning into capability. Until I decided to finally throw a fishing line into the water. It was getting a little shallow where we were, and some waves of some of the speedboats further in the center of the lake were kind of pushing us up against the shore. Well, at this time, I'd killed the engine, and I thought, okay, I'll just do the same process to get the motor running again. It wasn't quite that easy because apparently the throttle has to be in the right spot, the motor has to be in neutral, and I kind of panicked a little bit, and I asked some people on a pontoon that same question. "Excuse me, do you know how to operate an outboard motor?" And of course the response was, "I love the hat." Once I got the motor up and running again, we enjoyed the rest of the afternoon at Reed's Lake, and It was a pretty uneventful way of putting the motorboat back in the trailer, and we went home. A week later, I decided I'm feeling pretty capable, I'm feeling pretty confident. Let's try bringing the boat up the Grand River. It's only 4.5 miles. Now, I know that failing to plan is planning to fail, so I decided let's go upriver so that if something happens, we'll at least be able to coast back down. Sounded like a good idea, right? We got a unique view of Grand Rapids. I don't know how we would have gotten one any other way. Again, I was feeling confident and capable. About the time we turned around, I realized I was going to have to figure out how, against this fast-moving current, to dock this boat. I had underestimated the complexity, I have overestimated my capability, and I was losing confidence fast. You might say that my brain was flooded with anxiety. And as we approached the dock, I saw a young family standing there, and I yelled out, "Excuse me, you might want to make some room. I don't know how to dock this thing." And the young man says to me, "I love the hat." He said, "Do you need help?" I said, "Yes, I do." I threw him the dock line, and he and his family helped pull us in safely without crashing. I can now tell you that I still don't know much about boating, and I even know less about fishing. But I do know that if your capability and your confidence give way to a situation that is too complex to handle, put on a hat that screams, "I have no idea what I'm doing, and help is just around the corner." Mr. President,